Welcome to Behind the Tools. Here's Tradify CEO and your host, Michael Steckler.
Hi everyone, I'm Michael Steckler, I'm CEO of Tradify. Welcome to our first inaugural Tradify podcast. I'm delighted with the first, yeah, it's the first one.
I didn't realise it was the first one.
Yeah, it's the first one. And I think it's really fitting actually. Our first guest will be known to many of you is Nick Bundy, who's an electrician in the UK, has his own YouTube. I dare I say it, would you classify yourself as an influencer? I think you probably are.
Yeah, people say it, and people say it to me. I just, yeah, right.
Sort of Kim Kardashian of the trades business. Almost, how many subscribers now? You're up to 45,000, I think, subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah, 45.
Very popular Instagram channel. So Nick is a great person to talk to about kind of everything to do with how you market your business online in this sort of new age and how you use social to really amplify what you're doing. So I'm delighted to invite Nick onto our show as the first guest. Great to have you.
Pleasure, mate. I didn't realise it was the first. This is a good one.
This is the first one. And Nick, you're based in Stafford, if I'm not mistaken.
In the Midlands.
Home to the largest timber frame house, I think, in England, if I'm not. Did you know that?
Is it?
Well, you've just learned something.
You've obviously Googled something.
I did leverage Wikipedia to see if there's anything famous about Stafford, and there is.
I need to have a look.
It's the ancient house, and it's the largest timber-framed house being the trade. So it's a good thing to know.
Right.
Timber-framed house in the UK.
Okay.
Ancient High House, actually, it's called.
Ancient High, yes, I know.
Yeah.
I know it now, but I didn't know it was the. I didn't know we were famous for it anyway. Probably the only thing we are famous for. Christ.
Well, it came up top listing. And then, the other reason we sort of started this podcast was really to celebrate people doing great things in the trades across the world. So we've got customers everywhere in the world. UK is a really important market for us, and it's where I'm from originally. So it's important to me. And Nick, you're obviously an electrician by trade. Do you want to start by maybe just giving us a few minutes on kind of what you got into the business and then what made you start your own company?
It all boiled down to my granddad was a carpenter. My dad was a self-employed carpenter, my granddad, and then my dad was a self-employed painter. So trades was surrounded by it, from them doing their own paperwork, from their vans. Took a good liking to carpentry at a young age. Just go to my granddad's house, build bird tables, amongst other things. So I was always good with my hands. I'm not very academic. I can do exams, I just don't like them, and I'm dyslexic as well, so I struggle with reading and writing. Maths I'm really good at, which has helped. But it all went to, I knew I wanted to do a trade, didn't quite know what, so I actually went to go and be a carpenter. And that's literally went to college on the open evening with mum and dad, and the guy was like, "Oh, your grades are pretty good. Like, we've got a lot of applicants with carpentry. Why don't you try electrics?" I was like, "Yeah, okay." And then all of a sudden, I was signed up to do electrician's course, like out of nowhere. And my dad was like, it being in the trade, he's like, yeah, sparks are good. It's good money. Once you're up and running, this, that, and the other. I took his advice. Was at college so I did 2 years. Level 1 and level 2. I can't remember the what they were called now. It was that long ago. It seems like that long ago. Did them with the guys the same age as me. So unfortunately, because we're all straight from school, I met a new bunch of guys from different schools, and it was pretty much a mess around for the first 2 years. I mean, I wanted to do it and I wanted to try, but when you get caught up in the moment with young lads just leaving school and all they want to do is go Tesco and get a sarnie and hang around there for a bit. But it became a bit more real when my dad managed to get me a few on-site help with lads. So I would work for free, get some experience. So domestic, industrial, agricultural, few different bits and bobs. And then I managed to get a paid job on a commercial building in Stafford when I did level 3. And that's when things really changed for me, because I ended up having to do night courses with men with families and mortgages that were there in an evening after their job that wanted to retrain. And it was a moment of me going, right, I can't mess around anymore. Like, these guys want to here to learn. So we did that and became qualified. And at the same sort of time, this big job came to an end. So they said to me, you can move on with us. We'll give you a job. And, I think our next job is in Liverpool or Manchester or something. It was a good hour and a half away from me. And I thought, I was 17, 18 at the time. And I was like, I'm not really down for that. I'm not that bothered about it. And Dad said, well, you live at home, you've got no overheads. The only thing I had to pay for at the time was my car and my phone bill.
Right.
He said, get yourself a van, bounce off me for jobs, because I like to say, I don't know how many people know. I know a lot of people in the UK would know, but obviously the surname Bundy in America was a serial killer, a very famous serial killer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ted.
I've been
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Uncle Ted, as everyone keeps trying to call it. And so the Bundy name was around the area from my dad and my granddad, from the village I'm from called Nosal. So it didn't take long for to start like popping jobs here and there, and then bounced off my dad and my granddad and doing bits and bobs. And it just sort of grew and grew to the point where I became self-sufficient. I had enough work in. But this is one of the key things I always try and tell people now is, looking back on it, the age I was way too young to go self-employed. Never mind run a business, try and do paperwork, certificates, be punctual and competent to turn up to someone's house and have all the kit on your van. And it was, to me, it was at the time, being completely honest, it was something there to earn a bit of money, to go on holiday, to get on the pub, to enjoy. It wasn't, I didn't see it at that point in life as being, this is my career, I need to do this, I want to buy a house, I need to build on it. It was at that time just floating, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And this carried on for 4 years or so, to the point where I was like, I want to buy a house, I want to move on to the next step. And I really pulled my finger out, and that's when I started advertising in the magazines and the papers, on Facebook, or I wasn't on Instagram or stuff on then. And it was just building it up to the point where it was like the last 3 years or so, when I've got a young family now, I've got a mortgage, I want to up it. And I've always tried to be as good as I can be with work standards, but it was always the stuff in the background. Like, say, the paperwork was just, for a spark, it's never ending. And the phone calls and the invoices and the quotes. And even now, like, phone calls, I get at 10:30 at night with a customer, oh, can I have a quote? You're like, why are you ringing me now? But that is self-employed life, unfortunately. But yeah, and obviously that builds us up to present day of all the stuff I've done.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want me to talk about this now.
I was interested. You touched on sort of how you built the business, and you talked about advertising kind of in magazines and other stuff. What made you, when you think about how you market, I mean, I've noticed you've got a pretty good digital presence. You've created a WordPress site and done all the stuff that's, best practice to make sure you're visible. How did you approach that initially? Was it sort of you learning as you go, or did you have a pretty strong view about what you needed to do?
No, in the very start, none whatsoever. My brother is massive into IT, so he can make me a website within hours and put it up. And he helped me a lot. And I had my friend's dad, who was a graphic designer, who made the initial logo that I had, and got the van sign written. We just did all the key things. You buy a van, you sign write it, you get your name out there, make sure people can see you, where you're working and what you're doing at all times. That was a key thing, is just making sure people see your logo. And then obviously, as soon as they see electrician, especially in a village where I'm from, there was only one other guy, so it wasn't a lot of competition. But yeah, it was just building up to the stage of, right, make sure you're in the local magazines, local paper. Then the Facebook happened as well. I might always say what my dad never did, because of his age. He was too old to get into the whole Facebook thing at the time. When you're doing a job, as soon as you complete that job, make sure you get that customer to leave you a review. Hopefully it's going to be a good review, and that will always then help and bounce off. And it's different now as well. This was a long time ago. They have all the little Facebook groups. So you've got the villages or the towns, or where they can go, oh, I need a recommendation for electrician. You make sure you're there and you've got a presence, and people will tag you away. Make sure you say to your friends, if this ever pops up, just put my name in it, and what people should follow. But I try and stay away from that a bit now.
Yeah, with the reviews, what's your point of view on the review site? So you've kind of, you've got people like, there's obviously the traditional kind of tradespeople search engine sites. There's Facebook.
I've stayed away from all of them.
There's Nextdoor. What's your point of view in terms of?
Yeah, so I went on Nextdoor. I know there's a few other ones, like this is it Checker Trade ones, or there's other bits and bobs, My Builder or something like that. The only one I've ever gone on is Facebook, because it was free. And even then, I never really got a lot of reviews. I don't know. I wish I'd have done it more to get more work, but equally, I do find from some of these places as well, especially Facebook, we find out more now. The Facebook jobs more are time wasters, or they want their job done for nothing.
Right.
And that's my personal opinion. What I've found is we want an outside socket. Okay, well, let's say for example, it's £120. Oh, well, I've had a quote off Facebook. Another guy said he'll do it for 45. Okay then, okay, and as I found the business, myself going more up and up with prices, obviously I've got an apprentice and whatnot. You can't compete with Bob down the road that will do it without certificate, or he'll buy all the stuff from Screwfix as cheap as he can, rather than what we would fit as quality products. It's very difficult, but looking back at it, I think I ticked the boxes of what I had to do at the time. I could have gone on all these magazines. I didn't want my overheads to be really high. And I think that's what a few people struggle with, is they go, I need to go and check a trade, I need to go in my build, I need to be on all these different sites to rank up with everyone. And at the end of the month, they could end up with a bill of £500-600 just for advertising for a one-man band. And it's difficult. You need to put as a week's work sometime there just to pay your overheads for advertising.
So how do you, when you look at your, I think the earlier days and up till now, where does most of your work come from in terms of,
all word of mouth
generation? All word of mouth. Yeah.
All word of mouth. You get the occasional one or two Facebook, but the joy of now being busy, you can just pick and choose what you want. I'll never ignore a customer. It's happened a few times when you get so many, you can't get back to everyone. And that's just the nature of the job, but I can pick and choose which ones I want. I'll just say to someone, I'm really sorry, I'm just too busy for the next couple of months. If you want to do it, I can easily recommend someone that I trust to come and give you a quote. And that always goes down quite well, because the guys I pass the work on to want the work and they appreciate it. And I know they won't let me down. We've had a few in the past where you recommend a chippy or a plumber or something and they don't answer the phone, but then it looks bad on you. But you try and just learn throughout time what works, really. It's all practice, really.
Yeah. And then, how important do you think, because as I said, you're sort of fairly unique in how you focused on your digital presence. I mean, that is still important, presumably, as you think about word of mouth. Do you think that a lot of consumers, end customers, are still looking at your website or your Facebook page, whatever it is, when they're thinking about, still making?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think pictures, especially nowadays, I mean, with the whole YouTube thing, that was realistically by accident, if I'm honest. I'd like to say I did it. It was a really good business plan that I planned out, and I wanted to bump my name up. And it was purely a thing that I did I was just getting quite fed up with my job. I did a video on this recently. I just lost the enthusiasm for it. It was just ticking over. A few things happened. I lost my dad. I lost my best friend within the space of a year. And I detested working by myself. And I think I resonate with a lot of trade people I've spoken to as well. When you work by yourself and being self-employed, it ticks away at you to a point where you just don't like it anymore.
Yeah.
And I wanted to change. And it was purely by fact. I just watched a video on Facebook that popped up of a spark on YouTube. I was like, oh, didn't know there's sparks on YouTube. Oh, that's pretty good. And I watched another one, to the point where I was like, I enjoyed this, because I've tried to say this in loads of my videos. I was taught really by one domestic spark, the way to do a fuse board, the way to chase a wall, the way to lift a floorboard. From seeing how these other sparks are doing it online, then gave me ideas and little tips and tricks or materials I could buy to try and change. So I thought, I'll try that. So a few weeks later, I was doing a different brand of board, RCBO board, or I was picking up a floorboard a different way I've never seen before, or loads of cool little things. And I started getting the enthusiasm back a little bit, like getting excited to the job on the next day, where you could go, oh, I'm looking forward to trying this today, be something different. And as I started doing it, I thought, because I've always had confidence to speak to people, that's never been an issue, but to try and speak to a camera by yourself, which you've never done before, it was so alien, so weird. And obviously listening back to your voice, like everyone says, oh, I hate the sound of my voice. I'm used to it now, but it's, I thought I will try this and see if it works and give people my point of view on it, where I still class myself as young-ish. I'm turned 29 next week.
Yeah, that's young. It's young from where I'm set.
But yeah, that presence now, what I've got, kicks the arse out of anyone in my area on Google or anything like that for reviews. It's just, I'm top around here because of the YouTube stuff.
Well, you must
But
be
equally,
pretty high even for electrician searches in general because of that. Your
yeah, I think
subscribers
so.
and everything else. Not necessarily that that's going to generate the work that you want, but it's an interesting how you started that there wasn't a plan. It was just something that you.
There was never a plan. And this is what I find cool now is the guys that watch me, and I've always said, when I put my stuff out there, all I'm doing is showing the customers of how I work, the ethics where we work. We try and be punctual as we can. So I've got an apprentice now that joined me halfway through the YouTube stuff. And I literally have I can't think of the word, a catalogue of my work that I can show people. Yeah. This is a video of all the stuff we do, portfolio, that's it. And
it's very transparent as well.
People.
It's very transparent that you're actually on a job showing the kind of warts and all, this is what we're doing and how we approach it. I think it sort of generates
this is what's under a floor.
Yeah.
This is what we do under floors that customers never see, which we do lots that people never see. And we make mistakes, and I try and film the mistakes because you need to be as honest as you can. If you don't be honest, people will see straight through you and not like you or distrust you or what you say. So the best thing is be honest. If you make a mistake, I'll put my hands up to it. As long as I've not run over someone's cat or something, it's not too bad. I can say I drove through the wall at the wrong angle, it's come through, I'll patch it up, I'll pay for it. And they go, no, don't worry, it's fine. Like, that's the type of back and forth you need with the customers. You try and you get caught lying, that's the trust gone. But yeah, it's with the whole portfolio, and the lads now watch me, and a lot of them say I'm not doing it to be get free stuff like you do or get sponsorships. It's a good base to go, right, let's say you don't have any subscribers, you can get 15-20 videos out for portfolio. This is my work. You attach that to your website. When a customer then clicks on and goes, oh, let me, and it helps so much more nowadays than just a picture of a light that's on, because that's all it used to be. Oh, I've done a light and it works.
So there's sort of the customer credibility side. The other question I had, and you sort of touched on it, is most of the people you have very heavy engagement. I was quite, I think, surprised when we looked into this as a company. The level of engagement is really fantastic amongst tradespeople, in the YouTube community. Is that why people are tuning into you, do you think, mainly for practical advice, just to see other ways of doing things? Or is it part of the community? It just gives them that.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't. I know it's tips and tricks, because I've picked up stuff over the years from practicing or watching the other guys or just literally trying something new. And I've said this in a few videos. So if I bought this today, let's try it. And the guys do watch me for tips and tricks like I watch the other guys. But I've had a few people comment now because of Adam, my apprentice, who everyone knows on my channel now. We all love him to bits. What was a cool thing, we documented him from literally the first day he worked with me. It was unintentional to film, but it was his grandparents' house. I was like, do you want to should we film? He was like, yeah, Sam. And they've watched him from day one to day now, a year later, of how far he's come. And it's never been documented before of an electrician or an apprentice in general, from the first day to, let's say, the end of his apprenticeship, like every other day. And watching him grow, it's just awesome. And they want, like, this has then brought the apprentices watching me of how I treat him and how I got treated as trying to be, I wasn't never an apprentice, never got an apprenticeship, but learning the different electrics, I got treated like crap. I did. And I probably got off lightly compared to a lot of other guys got treated. But there's the back and forth. I treat him with respect. I treat him how I want to be treated. And he duplicates that back. He's a great worker. And you can see all the apprentices out there going, or the bosses as well, they watch me and go, yeah, Nick's bought this for Adam. We're going to treat this, reward him for being great, and we'll get more work out of him. And but other than that, I don't really know why people watch me, because they like our back and forth with Adam. Sorry, this was going. People were saying, obviously, you watch your soaps in the UK, you got your EastEnders, you get your Coronation Street. And a lot of people say, we're not even electricians, we just watch your channel for you and Adam, between you, like talking about jobs and this and that, and they just enjoy it, which is nice to see.
Oh, I watched one of your videos where I think Adam's shouting at you from up in it's either in a loft or somewhere. It's a shame. I think you cut it off. You don't finish what he was screaming for a reason, but I'm sure he was screaming for a good reason. But it is.
There's a lot. I
definitely see the entertainment value. And do you think that it's sort of playing an important role as well? Do you think it encourages other people who maybe are thinking about a job in the trades, like younger kids that are watching your channel, thinking, okay, what does it involve?
I've had a lot, and I can't reply to all of them, because you can imagine on one video alone you'll get 1,000 messages. Then Instagram, absolute stupid amount, and then obviously my numbers are all online as well, because obviously being my business, people then text me or I get phone calls all the time from, and I'll always answer the phone, always be as nice as I can. But sometimes I do want to go, come on, mate, it's 10:30, even not 11 o'clock at night. I know you're saying you watch my videos. I really appreciate this, but have a bit of respect. Like, I'm either here with my family or I'm going to bed, or just text me. But so many messages of people saying, you've literally inspired me to go to college and be an electrician, or Adam has. And just to see one person say it, but now we're talking hundreds now that have seen the way we work. And one of the things that I think resonates with people is obviously our enthusiasm with it. In a lot of the videos where we are excited to dig in, we're excited to start a job, film it, document it, go to the through, get the job satisfaction afterwards. That's one of the best things we have as a Spark. Because unfortunately, most of the stuff we do domestic-wise is buried in a wall and you can't see it, all the hard work. But once them lights come on, or that kitchen's then lit up, nice new kitchen, you can look at it, or the outside lights at night, you can go, I did that, and that looks wicked. And that is one of the best things. And a lot of these lads want that. It's just, hopefully they can find the right guy that will give it to them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's great I think that you're fulfilling that, way of really explaining and demonstrating what's involved as an apprentice, probably in the positive way versus like some of the experiences that you're sort of referring to.
Because there's a lot of people out there have had a bad experience.
And then you sort of touched on it. Yeah, of course. And I think I'm interested. I looked at all the sort of comments you generally get, and having been in this space for a long time, one of my big questions was like, how do you keep up with it? With the day job and everything else in the family. And I mean, how do you keep up with both, not only just the sort of creation of the content, which I think you're doing on the job, so there's probably some level of sort of doing it as you go, but I think keeping on top of the comments and all that kind of stuff. And you sort of just refer to it in terms of phone calls and texts, which I hadn't even thought about. But how do you manage that?
It's difficult. It is. I would love to reply to every comment on the videos. I would love to, and every message I get on Instagram. But there becomes a point where my family life is more important than trying to, like, I've got if I didn't have kids, it wouldn't be an issue. Like, my other half would understand, it's a business, what I'm actually doing now on YouTube and everything. It's turned into something different. But with my kids, they're only young bunts, and I want to put them to bed. I want to have, bath them, or I want to have tea with them. I've got to make sure. It was difficult to start when I first started YouTube, and I was still young to it. It was, right, there's a video going on, and I'll sit on my phone for hours replying to stuff, doing stuff, this and that, thinking it would help me with the algorithm, or it would help people subscribe to me, or just being nice in general, replying to people that took the effort to comment. But it did take over, and it started to take over more. And then I created the Instagram at the same time I created YouTube, because I knew they would bounce off each other, like go hand in hand. And then the messages started on Instagram, and I grew on that. And I was trying, but come to a point where I had to just sort of take a bit of a step back and go, there's time for this after the kids are in bed, or every other day. It doesn't have to be every night. And that's where I think a few people get a bit upset, where they can leave a comment, or on a few videos never get a reply, but depends on the time of day or what I'm doing. I find it very difficult, but time management is key, because it could be the key to being a successful YouTube channel or being a successful dad. But you've got to make sure you've got a bit of both in there to be good at both. I'm still learning every day, because it's difficult. Sometimes I'll get a video that absolutely hits off crazy, and I've got to make sure I'm on top of it and replying. Because a weird thing with YouTube, if you don't interact with your channel while a video is live within the first 2 hours, it can actually damage the video getting pushed more.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things behind the scenes. So you've got to go, like, sometimes I'll go, right, I've just got to do this for give me half an hour. I'll switch my phone off my iPad and we'll watch a film. It's a bit of back and forward. It's difficult unless you're there and you can experience it yourself. It's a strange one, because you want both, but you need to pick what's best.
Well,
really.
that's kind of where my question was leading. Is I think a lot of people underestimate what's really involved in managing a YouTube channel, or even a social presence of any sort, whether it's Instagram or YouTube. Just in terms of A, staying current, and B, the level of content you need to produce, and then how you interact with the audience and all those things. It sort of does become a full-time job. And what made you pick YouTube, just out of interest initially, as the main vehicle for your presence?
It was. I didn't know really. I had a personal Instagram that I never used anyway. It had about like 6 pictures on. The same as my Facebook. Like, I've always had them, but I've never really put a lot on them. And if I ever did, it was always a Mickey takeout of my mom on her birthday, or my brother, or my dad, or my other half, like silly stuff. Like, I would never just upload pictures of my day-to-day life. It didn't interest me. But but it all boiled down to watching. It was Chris, one of the other electrical YouTubers, CGI. I saw his video on YouTube, and I'd never even really watched YouTube before. It was only like bits of, I don't know, I like all the Marvel and DC films. So when one of them filmed, the trailer would come on, you watch a bit. I never really watched YouTube, and I knew of that PewDiePie or the big guys like KSI and whatnot, but couldn't actually say I sat down every time they put a video out and watched it. But it was literally one of them, right place, right time. I saw this video, I tried stuff at work, and I thought, I'm gonna give this a go, because I had an old GoPro lying around. I thought, I'll make 10 videos. The thing was, I said 10 videos, I'll do 10, whether or not they go anywhere or like no one watches them, I'll just do 10, see if I like it, and we'll go from there. And then he had to do 3, and it just went.
Yeah, I was going to say, when was which was the one that made you realize this is something special happening here, and this is going to get really big?
I did 2, 1, 2. It was like 2. One was in a summer house and something else. And I think the 3rd or 4th one I did, my van got broken into again. It was like the 3rd or 4th time, I can't remember what it was. And I thought, oh, sorry, I'll do a video on telling some guys, like, I've got a Ford Transit Custom. This is how they got in the van. This is the things to be careful of. This is what they took. And it just did that. And it just rocketed, like, compared to what I was getting 300-400 views or whatnot in a couple of days on a video. This hit like 10,000 views in like 2 days. And I was like, absolutely humbled by it. Like, I just can't believe 10,000 people. And it just kept going and going and going. And it just, that's when the spike of subscribers hit. And that's when YouTube pushed more stuff. And it helped that I wasn't the only electrical YouTuber. There was already like 5 guys that were already quite big in it for me to then bounce off, because they would go, oh, another guy, and they'd all watch me. And that's the way it sort of tumbled. But it was never like one day, oh, I want to do YouTube because it's better than Instagram or Facebook. It just happened.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating that you sort of talk about, even hearing you say you didn't really engage that much in YouTube, is that would not be the perception I guess most people would have, is that you were sort of a social first, using those channels regularly, and they decided to do it. So I think it's interesting that it's, I think with most of this stuff, the reason it catches fire sometimes in the way it does is because it is quite authentic, and it just is happenstance, versus if it's planned, you're trying to set up a video on a job or something, it probably will backfire, because people sort of see between the lines that this has been kind of set up. I think that's kind of why your relationship with Adam is quite good, because it's obviously natural. It's not like you're trying to play it for laughs. It just ends up that way, which is pretty cool.
But this is one of the things that I spoke to someone on the phone today about. It is, he's setting one of his channels up, and I said, you can't. And it's because once I set my channel up, I did a lot of research of how YouTube works, how the algorithm works, because it's not just you put a video on it and just cross your fingers. There's a lot of things that you've got to do to help push your videos, or to help improve your reach, or the countries that it goes to, because you get paid different amount of money from what countries views your videos. But this was before I earned any money off it. And one of the key things is, someone said to me, is don't start a YouTube channel trying to make money, because you'll make the wrong content and you'll come across in the wrong way. Do it for yourself, do it for a hobby, do it for your enjoyment, and then the money will come. And this is what happened. I just did 10 videos. I was like, I got really into it. I never edited a video before in my life. I never filmed myself. I'm really rubbish on computers. So I got my brother to help me out a bit with some stuff. And after the 3rd one, I was like, I think I've got it now. Let me do it by myself. And he watched it, because I think the first video I did, I don't think I've told many people this. The first video I did, I said, I need to show my mom, my brother, and my other half, and my best mate. I said, individually, I'll sit down, play it for them on telly on like a USB stick. And I said, if they don't cringe watching it, or I don't cringe watching them cringe watching it, I'm happy with it. And they all was just like, yeah, genuinely, like, it's really good. Like, they all said, we learned how to do SWA, like some armor cable. And I sat there and I didn't feel awkward at all, because that was the thing. I didn't want to put it online and go, oh, what have I done? And that was it. As soon as they were like, yeah, and I was comfortable, I was like, right, let's get it on there, let's get it done. I just started to enjoy the process. I think you need to enjoy the process of building something up, because the plan was, I'd like to hit 1,000 subscribers within 5 months or something. I thought it was a massive target. And I thought, enjoy the journey, build it up, do your videos, be creative, try some different ideas and tools, and I just say, enjoy what you're doing, because at the time of work, I wasn't enjoying myself. And I just got so much enjoyment from it. And I think my enjoyment come through on the videos, and then people then got a bit like, oh, this guy's all right.
Yeah.
And people would then message me saying, oh, I've tried the thing that you did today and it worked really well. And there's a picture. I was like, that is so cool. It was really enjoyable.
Who do you watch? Sort of who influences you? So when I think about, you talked earlier about practical tips and tricks and people you saw doing things differently or using different materials. Where do you get that stuff from now?
From now, so I still watch the same guys that I watched originally. I can't watch as much now. Like I used to watch every video that came out. But the guys equally, because we're always on the phone to each other, just asking or just catching up, because we've all said, when one of them rang me originally, they said it's nice to have a YouTuber spark that you can talk to, because your friends don't get it, your other half doesn't get it, your parents don't get it, unless you're in this thing that's going on, this little bubble. And they were ringing me up and we were talking. I was like, oh, this is cool. Like I can vent about things or ask questions or bits and bobs with each other. And but we also, we can't really watch each other's videos all the time, otherwise you would never get anything done. But yeah, I watched a few guys, but I watch some of now I'm more into it. I watch some of, like, say, PewDiePie. I like PewDiePie, I like KSI, I like the Sidemen. They're all, every now and then I think, oh, I'm going to do the dishes, or hey, all the kids are asleep Sunday morning, I'm up doing some paperwork. I just stick it on in the background. And but yeah, like Peter McKinnon, that sort of stuff. I've started getting more into it now. Like I like the cinematography of it. I like the camera angles. I like camera equipment. I just started with an old GoPro, and now I've got this set up.
Oh wow, look at that.
And but so yeah, the problem is the more you get into it, the more money it costs.
The more it's going to cost.
Stuff's expensive. Yeah.
But it sounds like it's worth the investment. And who should we, as we're building out this podcast, one of the reasons we're doing it is to really celebrate some unsung heroes, but also celebrate people that are doing interesting, cool things. And I think you're doing some, aside from your day-to-day business, I think it's really interesting how you built your brand profile. And a lot of things I think are going to be important for tradespeople longer term. And I'm not saying they all need to become influencers or build out a YouTube channel, but even just having a really good digital presence. I do think even with word of mouth, like the first thing I tend to do if I get a word of mouth recommendation is just check out someone's website or presence and, look at the pictures and just get a sense of how professional someone is. And even if it's just the, one person company, actually you can make yourself look, still very, very professional compared to and compete with some of those bigger companies. Who should we speak to next? When you sort of talked about people you watch, but not necessarily other influencers, but who's the person you think would be a really interesting person that's in the business that we should speak to on our next sort of podcast?
So I think you guys do it with Joe Jordan from Artisan Electrics. In Cambridge. So what Jordan did, wasn't so much, he was on it for about a year before me. And we've always had this really rivalry thing, who could get more subs and whatnot. And it's a great thing to have. It's like being at a gym with your mate. Like you always will push each other. If you're there top dog, there's no one to get you to the next level. But Jordan took his YouTube channel in sort of the direction of showing work, but gaining a lot of customers. He specializes in the EV courses. So he put out there, he is what you would call, he's the top EV charger or top EV installer, I would say, in the UK that I know of, as in the brands he use, he films it all. And he's really put YouTube to his business to be able to employ a lot more people, brands wise. He's really stepped it up with how he's built and upped his business, because that was all his plan. He wanted to get, 5 guys working for him. I never wanted that. I'm more than happy with me, apprentice. I can't deal with the stress of trying to get more work in for more guys or telling people what to do. That's not me. But Jordan, that was his business plan, and that's what he went for. He used YouTube as a key to get there. And I take my hat off to him. He's done really well.
Yeah, great. Cool. Well, we're nearly out. I know we're nearly out of time. Well, I can keep talking to you. This is really...
Sorry, I keep waffling.
No. It's fascinating, because I do think it's... I think this is going to continue. And it's kind of a worldwide trend. I mean, do you interact much with other people in other parts of the world who are doing similar things?
Yeah, some guys in America. There's a guy messaging me from Canada, which is... I've been to America a few times. I've always wanted to go to Canada. I just want to see how cold it is all the time for no reason. Where all over the UK, all over the world message me, to be honest. It's different because I get a lot of guys on Instagram showing me pictures of their installs from their regulations in their country. And I've been to India quite a few times. I used to go with my dad and my brother biking, and seeing their electrics firsthand, of like some guy literally up a pole, wrapping wire on the live mains, just tapping off to his restaurant. You're like, and being a spark at the time, I was like, how's he not dead? Like, what? And like public toilets, and there's just live buzz bars open everywhere. And you just think, and I know, like, I told my dad and my brother, don't touch that, you'll die. Yeah. And they're like, well, why is it out like that? And that's just the norm to them. But then seeing all the different voltages everywhere of the world, it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. We sort of almost pride ourselves that we do have good regulations, but then I get a few guys from Sweden or Germany that go like, what, yours is rubbish, like ours is. And then I was looking at their stuff, I was like, why don't we all do the same?
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, it's pretty interesting how that global audience with YouTube, what that does, and kind of how it opens up your eyes to doing things differently. Yeah, it's really cool.
But that's when the trolls started as well. They're like, my country's better than yours. We have AFDDs and you still do this. And it's just, no matter what you do, someone's going
to be
which
there,
is fine.
Yeah, it's part of it. I mean, that's part of the downside, I guess, with all of this stuff, is that you have to have a level of acceptance that there's going to be those people that sometimes actually probably have nothing to do with the trades as well. They're just going to, jump in for whatever reason. That's just a part of the fabric of, unfortunately, that goes with this stuff.
Put yourself out there, you're going to get done. That's it.
Yeah.
Someone's not going to like you.
Yeah, you have to be fairly emotionally robust, I think, to get yourself into this. Otherwise, you're asking for trouble. So we have a few sort of questions we're going to ask everyone that we get on the podcast at the very end, quickfire questions, which hopefully Richie sort of gave you a sense of in advance, but they're not. The first one, which I know you've got strong opinions on, and I know you've got quite a humorous take on this generally, but was if there was another trade, what would it be? If you weren't an electrician, what would you be instead? Which my sense is you don't want to answer it when I was watching other videos, but
no, it's to be another trade. I'd be a chippy. I would a carpenter. I because I did it when I was younger, and I appreciate the talent and the craftsmanship it is to do this sort of stuff. I really like. It's not like we can do like sparking. Most of our stuff's hidden. You've only got to make sure the finishing product looks perfect. Their stuff, everything has to be spot on, and I do. I'd like to be a chippy. If I wasn't a spark, I'd be a chippy. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Second one is, what's your favourite on-site lunch? I mean, you referenced Tesco's Sani earlier.
If you were to go breakfast, we'd probably say Mackey's breakfast. But lunch-wise, probably just a meal deal, Tesco meal deal. If I hadn't made my own food, it would be probably chicken and stuffing sandwich with salt and vinegar McCoy's and a can of Monster, probably.
That's
nice and healthy.
That's a nice mix. Great. And then the third one is, what's your go-to tool brand?
That's a tough one, really, because I've got loads. If you would say hand tools, I mean, our main thing are screwdrivers and cutters. Being a spark, would be Nipex, really. Nipex and Vera between the two. Yeah. Right. They say I've got dozens of them lying around somewhere. It's if I looked after my tools, and you would probably know this, speaking to a lot of sparks, a screwdriver just isn't a screwdriver. It's also a chisel and a thing to bend stuff and poke stuff. So my screwdrivers don't last very long. So but that's probably most sparks, to be honest. Yeah.
And then the other one is, I mean, I've seen a few of these that you've done, but the best prank to play on an apprentice.
The one that I've not really played any on him because he's too clued up with it. But we've done it to a few of the other guys on site. So, what was it? I think it was the scaffolders. He was catching the sparks in a bucket. I think we did that one once, but we never really on site with many other people. Or it was the plumber's apprentice when we did a few stuff, and we asked him just to make sure. I think it wasn't me, but we were there just to hold his thumb on the end of a pipe because we didn't turn the water back on. And he said, "If there's any water comes out, but you need to stand there." And I think he was there. Then no water got turned on. He just stood there, and the pipe wasn't even connected to anything. It was just held. It was loose on the floor. It was just an off-cut a pipe that he had to put his thumb under. And he left him there about 20 minutes. I thought, come on, guys. But it was funny. But he was one of them.
Yeah.
But not too far.
The last one feels, I'm hoping this feels like a sort of a positive one as we're moving kind of, hopefully, touch wood, out of COVID and things start to get back to normal in some way. But sort of the first band or live music thing that you would see, if you could see, when things do open up, who would they be?
Green Day.
Green Day, really? Huh?
Green Day. I like a lot. I like a lot of different type of music, but Green Day's always sat. I grew up with it, and I saw them play at Download Festival. God, a long time ago, at Donington Park.
Yeah,
and it was just awesome, absolutely awesome. And if I could go back and do it again, I would. But I've never been a proper live music fan. I just can't be arsed with it. I'm deaf in one ear, you see. No, it doesn't really help with 2 headphones on. So most of the time, if there's people talking, there's crowds in the background, I'm just stood there. I was like, I can't hear anything.
Can't hear anything. Yeah.
No.
That's probably why it's Green Day. It's loud. Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
Great. No, I really appreciate this. This has been a great conversation. I think it's really insightful, sort of some of the things that you've done and how you built that channel. I think it's really compelling that you built it. Really is. I wouldn't use the word a fluke, but there wasn't an intention. It's interesting you said you wanted to get 1,000 subscribers once you started. I think that is interesting. You had some form of plan.
Yeah, you've got to set goals. You've got to set goals,
which is cool. But it was a real pleasure talking to you. I'm feel very
honoured
we got to have you as our first guest. It's been
great.
I'm
honoured, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you get back to your evening. Appreciate it, and we will catch up with you soon. Cheers, Nick.
Awesome.
And by anyone that's tuned in that was hoping for a sort of true crime podcast, Ted Bundy, they're going to be very disappointed.
Disappointment. Next time,
they might learn something about how to be a spark. Yeah, cool, great. Thanks, Nick. Chat soon.
Cheers, mate.
And that brings us to the end of this episode. Behind the Tools is brought to you by Tradify, job management software for your trade business. If you enjoyed the podcast, let us know by leaving a review, and be sure to tell your mates about it. Email behindthetools@tradifyhq.com if you or someone you know would be keen to join the show as a guest.